Okay, folks, part two. All right, here we go. Here differences begin, but it is when we get beyond the third point that opinion diverges sharply. The present administration in power, probably the majority of our editors and columnists, our very influential body of public opinion, as represented by our Committee to Defend America by Aiding Britain, is in favor of our government turning over some of our flying fortresses, more destroyers, more planes, and merchant ships. Others, even more extreme, favor an outright alliance with Great Britain and a declaration of war on Germany. Now, what are the fundamental arguments for this point of view? They may be reduced to three principal measures. First, the totalitarian state with its ideology, with its record of persecution, is repugnant to our ideals and should be destroyed, even if we have to enter a war to accomplish this goal. Second, our own protection depends on Britain as our first line of defense, and if she falls, we are exposed to the onslaught of the totalitarian combined. Per se, it follows that we must give England all the aid we can, even at risk of entering the war. Third, if Britain is defeated, it will be impossible for a free, competitive, unorganized, and unmanaged industrial system to compete with a totalitarian regime. War does not destroy ideologies. As to the first reason, we cannot destroy an ideology by waging war on it. The conditions created in Europe by the Versailles Treaty were largely responsible for the rise of Hitler and the Nazi philosophy. The history of Europe for the last 100 years is a story of cruelties, persecutions, and injustices. No government was more repugnant to our ideals and ideas than the old Tsarist regime of Russia. It had over many years a series of pogroms, but we remained on friendly terms with Russia. Up until 1917, we had always remained true to the principles of foreign policy laid down by the founders of our country. The policy of keeping aloof from the quarrels of Europe and Asia. The policy of keeping aloft from the quarrels of Europe and Asia, okay? Yeah, I will. The policy of keeping aloft from the policy of Europe and Asia. Gotta stay out of their quarrels. The communistic regime of Russia under Lenin and Stalin was really opposed to our principles and was detested by the majority of our people. Nevertheless, we have maintained our relationships with Russia, and we have certainly had no idea of making a war on that country. Sentiments are realist. A nation cannot be knight errant. It must be realistic. Great Britain, during her entire history, has been coldly realistic, and her success in building up her empire has been due to her realism. As individuals, we can give vent to our generous impulses or even to our pet hates. But our statesmen, our editors, our molders of public opinion must consider that it is not their individual fortunes and lives that are to be considered, but those of all of their fellow citizens. It says here on 35 million, but now we're over 350 million, so. Now, as to the second reason, our military defense in the event of a German victory. Our country has gone through a curious transformation and thought since May the 10th. From the underestimated of the military and economic strength of Germany, it has gone to the opposite extreme of overestimating that strength. From some of the remarks heard on the eastern seaboard in June, we would have thought that New York and Russia were in imminent danger of being bombed. Bombings alone cannot win. Now, the events in Spain, Poland, Belgium, France showed the major importance of the air arm when supported by tanks, infantry, and a modern army. But Spain showed that bombing of cities unsupported by an army cannot win a war or even shake the morals of a population if the nation is of tough fiber like the Spanish and the English peoples. Apparently, the Battle of England is demonstrating the same principle. Unless an army can cross the Channel and the German forces cannot impose a decision of England, casualties and material damage, yes. The 15,000 casualties in London so far are but a drop in the bucket for a nation of 45 million people. More casualties were incurred in a single day of the Verdun, Ypres, and Somme offenses. The destruction of apartment buildings, houses, stores, public buildings do not constitute a blow to the military strength of a nation. If the docks, railroads, and power plants and munition plants are still put out of commission, it does not affect the military effort, for unless it is done on a gigantic scale, the nation cannot be subbed, and all evidence is to the effect that military damage has thus far not been of such a serious character as to severely impair the island's defense. Well, we got another long section coming up, people, so I'm going to close it for tonight, and I'll finish this tomorrow. So this guy's got a lot to say. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4. Stick with it. I hope you'll get something from the series, at least the ideas and the principles that are expounded upon there, and how you are to be a good citizen. And then we got to be really circumspect in our speech, don't we? So remember, their guideline is they want even teenagers or young, no, even younger than that. They want, if a preschooler knew how to get online, they'd want it safe for a preschooler. So I need to be very careful of profanity. I have a tendency for that sometimes. So rather than give them that excuse to get rid of me, I won't do. So I'll pick up on this tomorrow, God willing, inshallah. All right, have a good night, people.